Hi everyone, I'm John, one half of the Corporate Breakout Couple. In today's video, I'm going to be a little bit more specific addressing topics that's revolving around Singapore residents who are living and working in Singapore. I want to explore the median gross income of the working salaries in Singapore, the year-on-year increases and changes for the last 10 years, and importantly, where do you stand? I also want to bring in inflation as well, the rate of changes every year, and whether your salary has managed to keep up. And of course, how can I forget my favorite topic, the cost of living, or should I say the rising cost of living and how it's impacting you. Last but not least, I want to share with you some pointers, some tips on how you can navigate the tough economic environment, not just in Singapore, but in the rest of the world as well. Before I continue, here's a short introduction about this channel, especially if you are new. My wife, Fran and I retired young at the age of 40 in 2020. Since then, we've been traveling around the world and creating videos such as cost of living videos, retirement destinations, and showing what an early retired life can be like. For some of you who wish to gun for financial independence and retire early, or some of you who want to break out the corporate 9 to 5 rat race, the purpose of many of these videos we have created, especially in 2023, is to share with you possible examples of what financial freedom can look like for you. What are the ways to go about your retirement and your financial independent life, instead of the old ways of traditional retirement where you're locked up in a box, in my definition, where you do day-to-day routines like our parents and grandparents. It's no longer that. We have to approach the financially free life with a very modernized way of thinking and a very evolving mindset. And this year in 2024, Fran and I really want to focus on helping you establish your starting steps, especially at the beginning where you need a huge boost, which is why we set up the Breakout Academy and Breakout Community where we can handhold you. Today's video is really part of the educational content that we want to constantly provide you as part of the process in terms of financial literacy, such that you can gain perspective, especially from a top-down perspective, a macro view of where you stand in the view of the economy, like income, cost of living, inflation, where you currently stand, and importantly, where you can get to, where your end destination can be. So, having said all that, let's begin. Let's look at some data, shall we? Here's the Ministry of Manpower website, which denotes the median gross monthly income starting from the year 2013, which is at 3,705 Sing dollars. 10 years later in 2023, the current number stands at 5,197. The cumulative change for the 10-year period is 40.3%, and the annualized change for nominal value is 3.4%. In other words, every year, the gross monthly income for median salary is around 3.4% change per year. Just to note, the difference between nominal and real is real annualized change is actually being adjusted for inflation, and that should actually be the value you are looking at. Here's more monthly income breakdown for you by age, kindly offered by Sidley, from the age group of 20 to 24 all the way to 50 to 54. If you notice, the peak of the income actually lies between the 10-year period of 35 to 44 years old before it starts to dwindle down from 45 onwards. The question to ask here is, when one's career peaks at around the age of 45 and the income starts coming down, does one decrease their lifestyle costs accordingly, maintain the same lifestyle, or worse still, continue to get caught in the lifestyle inflation trap? Here's more income data for you, kindly provided by Dollars and Cents in terms of industry and the kind of median income you're looking at. Number 1 belongs to financial and insurance services, no surprise about that, at around 8 over 1,000. Number 2 belongs to the information and communication sector at around 7,000. And number 3, which is a surprise, the public administration, defense and education, the public sector, that's around 6,009, very close to the IT sector. It's always good for you to do a regular check to know where your industry stands, how much your peers are earning in other industries, and how you measure up. And finally, from the Department of Statistics website, here's the average monthly household income broken down by dwelling in terms of the HDB room size, in terms of condominiums and private apartments, and also landed properties. In the year 2022, if you look at all the different household income, the disparity is actually very big among the different categories. Let's talk about inflation. It's an ugly word nowadays, isn't it? Everybody is so afraid of inflation and inflation rate going up, and they're paying more dollars for the same buck. Let me offer you a different perspective. Let's say you are the US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, and their target is to hit an inflation rate of 2% every year. Well, they're still far off, but that's why they keep increasing the interest rates to bring down the inflation. Now, a steady inflation of, in US example, say 2% is important for the growth of the economy, for the GDP to increase. But you don't want that number to be too high, such that the consumers, the people, the citizens are experiencing high price changes too much. Therefore, it's a delicate balance between the two, and that's what's going on in the world today. Now, in order to understand how inflation applies to you as an individual, you got to understand how it's measured. And one of the key measurements is the Consumer Price Index, CPI. And CPI is measured differently in different parts of the world. Let's say in US, the CPI does not include energy prices because the price of oil and other energy fluctuates too much and impacts the CPI index reading. Now for Singapore, it does not include properties and it does not include price of private cars. So you got to understand in Singapore context what CPI is measuring and how it's impacting you in terms of price changes, and that's one of the indicators of inflation. Here's the inflation rate for Singapore for the last 10 years. If you notice from 2014 all the way to 2021, the inflation rate has been kept at around -1% to around 2%, after which from 2022 onwards it accelerated all the way to nearing 8% before dropping down to about 4% right now. Now, during the pandemic and pandemic onwards, there's a whole bunch of fiscal and monetary policies rolled out by the governments to stimulate the economy, and also the easy borrowing has really triggered the high inflation rates until the Federal Reserve started increasing the interest rates to start bringing it down. By the way, in 2017, Singapore actually experienced deflation with an almost -2% inflation rate, and that's not good for economic development. Look at Japan. Japan has been stagnant for the last 30 years and keeping the interest rate at near zero in order to stimulate the economy, and that's not very good. What about CPI, Consumer Price Index, which is a key measurable for inflation? The same goes from 2014 all the way to 2021. It holds at around an index number of 100 before it suddenly increased all the way to 115 as of today. So what exactly is a CPI? The CPI is designed to measure the average price changes of a fixed basket of consumption goods and services commonly purchased by the residential households over time. In short, these are your basic needs. And how is the CPI rebased? How often is it rebased? Every 5 years in Singapore context. And what does the CPI basket covers? It covers around 6,800 brands and varieties from 4,200 outlets as of 2019, the last CPI base. And each basket of goods and services are measured differently in terms of weightage. And as I mentioned earlier, the private cars and properties are not included within the CPI basket for Singapore. And these, as you can see from this diagram, are the different kinds of basic needs that's included. Let's talk about the cost of living. The cost of living is essentially your basic needs, your basic staples and necessities that you consume day to day, such as your food, such as your groceries, your transport, and in Singapore context, I'm talking about public transport, okay? And your combination, like for example, a roof over your head like a HDB. I'm not talking about private properties, okay? And your healthcare, your basic healthcare that's needed for you to go and see the doctors or be in event of hospitalization is covered. Now, let's talk about wants. Be clear about this. Wants are not necessities, and they shouldn't be in your conversations when you are complaining about price increases. Like for example, the price of COE has increased. Or for example, the price of this private property has increased and all that. You can always have a choice and go for the basic one first. So be clear about that before you complain about rising cost of living, about your wants. Now back to your needs. Actually, in Singapore context, right, if you really think about it, we are very blessed. Okay, I'm a Singaporean, right? The cost of basic needs with relevance to the income that I've shown you earlier is a very small fraction. I'm talking about public transport, I'm talking about like your hawker food, your coffee shop food, or even going to NTUC, Cold Storage, Sheng Siong to buy your groceries for you to have a great meal at a really affordable cost with respect to your pay. It's when you start to lump in the wants that will really then start to blow your budget, like going to cafes, going to restaurants, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just take note that you must be able to classify your needs and your wants every single day when you spend money, such that when you are budgeting, you are very clear about what goes into where. I did 2 cost of living videos for Singapore some time back. The first one is actually on basic needs, and the second one is actually on basic needs plus wants, and after which I actually gave you 2 different types of budget based on 2 different kind of personas. One of them is the budget conscious persona, the other one is the average consumer, the average Singaporean that's living and working in Singapore. Do check out the 2 cost of living videos where Fran and I went all over Singapore to compile all the different ground prices for you in terms of food, groceries, accommodation, healthcare, and all that, and then compiling everything for you, including basic needs plus wants, to very realistic budgets for you. And you can actually use these 2 budgets to compare with the median working income of the people in Singapore as well as household income, and you realize that actually for Singaporean, we are pretty lucky. Even after all our traveling costs and all that, we can still save some money. Now the key question is, how do you fit in and how do you mitigate your risk? I'm going to share with you 3 ways on how you can mitigate this risk. The first way is the keyword diversify. Diversify what? Diversify your income. Now understand this, when you have a second source of income, in terms of risk management perspective, you immediately half your risk compared to if you're holding one and only full-time job, which is only one active income. Your maximum risk is on that source of income, and when you lose it, you have 0 income. But when you have 2 income streams, you can always rely on the other income. So when you then have a third source of income, you hedge your risk even more. Just to share a little, Fran and I actually have 8 sources of income by the time we were retired in 2020, and that really helped accelerate our early retirement journey. While many of our income streams were passive, but some of them were active income that we built as a separate skill set on top of what we already know in our corporate jobs, such as coaching. I would strongly advocate for you to build a second source of income, especially on a subject, on a topic that you can be passionate about. It could be online tutoring, it can be other kinds of side hustle like creating digital products or online courses, whatever that may be for you. It is a very interesting separate track that you can set aside kind of minimal amount of time per week but consistent for you to build it slowly so that you continue to have this source of income that you can always fall back on should a time come where you face retrenchment or layoff. The second way to mitigate your risk is investments, of course. I know most people only have one source of income, which is their main job. But I also know business owners who have been making millions over the years, all in back into the business until one day where unfortunately due to the business environment, their business failed and they lost everything. While they could have, along the course of their business success, taken some money to go and acquire assets. Assets that can either appreciate over time or assets that can give them passive income and passive cash flow. Now know how to differentiate this. Your active income, which is like your job, or side hustles, which are trading time for money, is a different type of income versus investments, which are mostly passive. These are 2 separate tracks, 2 different skill sets and experience you want to acquire and run them in parallel. The third way to mitigate your risk is budgeting. Now, don't underestimate budgeting. I came from a field of business development and crunching business numbers in tens of millions, and I can tell you conceptually, whether you are crunching a financial statement for a company, a balance sheet, or your budget, which is a personal financial statement, it works in the same concept. What do I mean? It is not just a matter of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Everybody can do math. Everybody knows how to work an Excel sheet or work a budgeting app. Now, the difference is, how do you know how to see what lies behind the numbers? How do you know how to categorize them, prioritize them, how to put everything together such that when you are out there spending your money, you are not blowing your budget? Let me share with you why many people fail to budget or fail to stick to budget consistently. And the key word here is you. You are at the center of everything you do. So how you budget, how you spend money is the same way how you operate when you treat your friends, your spouse, towards your health, your family. It is the same person. You are the denominator. So understand that when you have certain spending habits or certain, emotions attached to your habit or how your relationship is like with money, it is all down to you. If you don't want to recognize that you need to work on you in order to have a better relationship with money, then guess what? Your results will always be the same, and that's the reason why you don't take budgeting seriously. Now, if you notice, I didn't talk about early retirement or financial independence at all because honestly, there is actually a much more advanced step. If you can't get basic things like your budget, you can't get basic things like your relationship with money and building a second source of income, then it will be actually very difficult for you to even gun for financial independence. It's never too late to make a change. And if you're serious about making a change right now in your life and you want your results to change, you want to gun for that financial freedom life, you want to gun for that better life, not just for yourself but your family, I invite you to join our breakout community, a community that we have started last month, and we are building in the process of getting like-minded people who can offer different insights to you. And of course, Fran and I are in there, and we will not go easy on you. We'll make sure that you are involved, you are active, and you will always be kept moving together with everybody else in the right direction so that we can all learn from each other. Well, I started today's video talking about Singapore income, rate of inflation, and cost of living, but the video wasn't just about that, was it? It is in Fran and my heart to really want to impart our knowledge, to share with you, to teach, to coach you. That's why we create a lot of free content on YouTube, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, where we can share all this with you freely. But we know that in order for you to really learn, you need to invest in yourself. And in the game of money, you need to put some dollar on the table. That's how the world works. Fran and I invested about 100 over 1,000 Sing dollars in ourselves, whether in the space of real estate, in trading forex, trading options, whether it's learning about different other types of investments, whether it's personal development. That's very important to level ourselves up such that our return is like 100, 1,000 fold. And that's how money works. When you put money on the table, that money will multiply and give you tremendously back. And that value should always be exponentially increasing, if you know what I mean. With that, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Do hit the like button and subscribe to join our YouTube channel, and see you in the next video.